Right, good evening, everybody, and welcome to this evening's Cabinet meeting at Basingstoke and Dean Borough Council. First of all, some housekeeping. There are no fire alarms scheduled for this evening's meeting. Therefore, if the fire alarm sounds, please evacuate the building immediately. The fire exit is located at the side of this room. Exit through reception and meet in the War Memorial Park. The meetings here at Basingstoke and Dean, we webcast. I just need to check that it's working. It is. So this meeting is webcast live on the internet and will be available to view on YouTube after the meeting. If I could ask everybody to ensure that their mobile phone is either turned off or switched to silent, that would be greatly appreciated. Thank you very much. Also, just to be aware for this evening's meeting, I know members are very aware of the drill, but we do have quite a lot of pink papers as well. So if anybody is anticipating venturing into the pink papers, then please do make me aware, because there are some things that we'll need to do as far as some announcements and agreeing a motion to go into private session. So first of all, apologies for absence. I think we're all here. Declarations of interest? No. Urgent matters. Anybody got any urgent matters? I don't have any. No. Thank you very much. Minutes of the meeting held on 7th of February 2023 is item 4. Councillor McCormick, I believe you wanted to raise something on the minutes. Did you want to put your mic on, Andy?
Right, thank you, Leader. I get 2 minutes for this, do I?
Well, no, it's just to raise your questions.
Yeah. Well, we had I was just looking through the minutes.
Yep.
We had a number of items that night, and I made a number of requests on the town centre. I'll just make a note of it. I'd asked for an update. I don't appear to have got one. So, page 8.
This is at the top.
Yes. I'd like to have an indication of reasonable rent and what actions would be taken to address empty retail units. I don't appear to have had a response to that. In fact, all the questions I asked that night either had sort of "it's not our responsibility" type responses or zero responses.
So I think we need to be really clear, Andy, that actually nobody agreed in an action. So we were talking about the accuracy of the minutes for our purposes this evening. So and you can see it further down in the minutes here, as far as indication of reasonable rents, and we talked through why that was quite difficult for a borough council, whether it be the size of the units, type of the business, the arrangements between the leaseholder and the landlord, and also actions to address empty retail units, because of course in the malls we don't have any. We've either got tenants or people lined up to be tenants. So again, I understand your issues regarding wanting to know what the actions are, but actually I'm quite happy to support that the minutes are accurate in relating what the conversation actually was. Did you have another point?
I think it's just a case of interpretation of what went on in the night. I've got some bedtime reading for you. 7 Habits of Highly Effective People by Stephen Covey. It's a well-known management book. And one of the key habits is proactivity. And I think it's incumbent on everyone in this administration to be more proactive in looking at what's happening in the town centre and not doing things like saying, "it's not our responsibility, there's nothing we can do about it." The residents expect the council to fight to keep the town centre going and revive it, and nothing in these minutes, however accurate they may be of somebody's record of what was going on, none of that reflects what we really should be doing to try and save this town centre, because it's not getting better. And you've had long enough, you've had several years to come up with an effective action plan and come up with some action to turn around the town centre.
Andy, I take your point that the minutes are an accurate reflection, and I'll put that to the Cabinet in a moment. I think it's really important that your questions were very specific about empty units and reasonable rents. And of course, this council has put into place lots of actions regarding master planning, regarding activity in the town centre, whether that be the festival activities, whether that be the Friday activities during school holidays. There's been a whole programme of activities that's been going on with our partners to make sure that footfall is up. Even if I thought about my own personal observations, I think it was on Saturday when I was in town, well, I actually haven't seen a town that busy for some time, and it wasn't even Christmas this weekend. So I think we've got to all demonstrate some concern about making sure that our town centre is healthy and vibrant. I think we need to be really clear that there was a specific question about a specific issue, and let's not conflate that with actions regarding supporting the town centre in a wider angle, and also perhaps some reflection on whose responsibility it is for some very specific actions, and some actions that we're doing which perhaps aren't as direct as far as supporting the town, so things like animation and activities, but do have a significant impact on the regional draw of our town centre. So I will put it to the Cabinet whether we're happy with this being an accurate reflection of the meeting that happened on that evening. Are we happy? Brilliant. Thank you very much. So we'll move on. I'm just going to change the orders of the rest of the items, if I may. I'm conscious that we've got some public speakers with us. So I'm going to take item 10 next, which is 24 Swan Street and the potential disposal of it. I wondered if I could ask Councillor Isaac to introduce it first, and then I'll ask our visitors, both visitors from members of the public, then councillors, to join us. Councillor Isaac.
Thank you. Thank you, Leader. I need to make the Cabinet aware of a minor legal amendment to the papers, and that's in paragraph 7.8 of the legal implications. An amendment needs to be made which removes reference to state aid, and which states that Section 2 of the Subsidy Control Act 2022 is now in force. So it now reads, any disposal at less than the open market value may also have a subsidy control implications under Section 2 of the Subsidy Control Act 2022. This matter will be investigated further if a successful bid is made, but is likely to be seen as marginal at the level of discount and quantum of the transaction. I've been contacted by Councillor Ian Bowes of the Kingsclear Performing Arts and Youth Centre Community Interest Group to say that the most recent submission by his organisation is not the one that was originally included in the Cabinet papers. That's now been amended and published, so that we've got paper that was issued on the 25th of October 2022 by the group, and which was discussed with officers. So if I can now turn to the matter at hand. This is a report recommending the disposal of 24 Swan Street in Kingsclear. 24 Swan Street is a long-held listed building in the centre of the village, and it's one that we have struggled to let for many years fully. We have got tenants in there, and it was decided as is appropriate that we need to investigate the potential for better use of the site, and that was one where we would be declaring it surplus and selling the property. But we do, as a council, have broad responsibilities that extend beyond the financial to the social, economic, and well-being of our communities, and therefore it's right tonight that we are responding positively to the local Kingsclear community who have successfully applied for the property to be registered as an asset of community value. So this is something that has, and it's important. It has the full support of Kingsclere Parish Council, and also the ward councillors, particularly councillors Stuart Frost, Councillor Kerry Morrow, and Councillor Rattigan. And I've also visited the building, met the dance studio, and have met the Parish Council and also the Kingsclere Performing Arts and Youth Centre, CIC. And I recognise, Cabinet, that there is a strong attachment to this building in the heart of the village, and that there's some very encouraging, imaginative plans for making even more fuller use of the building for the community, as well as continuing, I hope, the dance studios, which do a fantastic job with helping young people to learn how to dance over and attract have quite a catchment of pupils. I'm also aware, because I shop in Kingsclere, was there today, in fact, that car parking is an issue in the centre of the village, and this car park has been used by people in Kingsclere and visiting the shops, and there's an opportunity now, if the community interest group can acquire the building, to regularise that and assist residents and local businesses. So I'm recommending to Cabinet that we support the report prepared by officers, and that we give the community interest group an opportunity to purchase a long leasehold of the property, and that to reflect the I think significant benefits economically and socially that would occur, to do so at a discounted price to be agreed with officers, and I think that this is entirely consistent with our approach as a council to see the long-term management of properties, facilities such as this, in the hands of local people, and not necessarily this council. And I'm content that that the use of this building for community purposes would not be in conflict with the other community buildings that we have in the village, particularly the Fieldgate Centre. So I'm content to recommend this to Cabinet. I just make one point. I've had an email in the last 24 hours from Councillor Bowes asking that the period of time to negotiate terms and obtain funding should be extended beyond the 6-month period, which is provided for statutorily. And I would say that I think we should stick to what the legislation says. But of course, if they were very close with it, to agreeing something, and we needed a week or two more beyond 6 months, then I would listen to what officers' recommendation at that point is. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Isett. We have a couple of public speakers and a couple of visiting councillors. If I could ask, first of all, Hannah Horton to join us at the front desk. Good evening, Hannah. Welcome. So how it goes is there's a button on your mic, and that the light will light up to red, and you have 2 minutes. As soon as you start speaking, I'll start the timer, and you'll see the time countdown, and the colours will change. I will give you a 30-second warning when you're coming to the end. Is that all right? So when you're ready.
Great, thanks. Okay, so for 3 years, my purpose has been to remove the threat that's been hanging over the further education and dance school based at 24 Swan Street, along with saving a facility that supports the day-to-day operation of a rural village. Providing you agree to arrangements that will enable the transfer of this community asset to Kingsley Performing Arts News Centre, CIC, we'll be able to create an enhanced facility where more of our young people can develop and thrive. The positive action is very much aligned with delivering the council strategy of strengthening communities, and failure would significantly diminish the community. So 24 Swan Street houses more than a dance school. It's a base for a performing arts college. It's in fact the off-site performing arts department of Newbury College. Students aged 16 to 19 study a range of subjects: acting, musical theatre, dance. There's a one-year foundation course, and students can also add one or more A-level subjects to their course of studies. Our students progress to degree courses, preparing them for a career in the performing arts, and performing arts being an important sector for our economy. More than 230 people attend the college and JLD School of Dance, with over 20 professional staff. It's an important employment base. The aim of the CIC is to develop the 24 Swan Street as a performing arts facility, a base for the youth club, a permanent base, a cafe that supports the facility, but also accommodates Kingsclere's food bank. Parking is an important issue, supporting the quality of life for residents in a conservation area so that we will continue to provide parking for residents. Our local councillors have made public comments about supporting community asset transfer, for which we're grateful. As a public body, we suggest that this is a community asset transfer, and we ask the council works with us to ensure that the transfer allows the continuation of as a community asset. We would clearly like the maximum discount possible, and what we do request is that the arrangements that you agree reflect how the community company will be able to raise the funds for transfer by means of grants and grant applications. So we propose a 6-month limit is not appropriate for this form of grant funding.
Thank you very much for that, Hannah. Thank you for joining us.
Nearly got there. Thanks very much.
It's all right. And if I can invite our next guest speaker, which is Ira Tonkins. Good evening, Ira. Again, when you're ready, press the button and I'll start the timer when you start talking.
Good evening, my name's Ira Tonkins. My husband and I own 2 businesses at 24 Swan Street. We started our business, well, I've started my business several years ago, and we went into Kingsclere to start a shop as such for the community as well as for other things. My thing is that due to all this business that's been going on with the council and selling it, our business has actually gone downhill because we had to put it out looking for a new premise to go to. And since then, our business has actually declined quite a lot. Now, my husband got made medically retired. He runs his blade sharpening business from there. He's worked very hard. He's been in a lot of pain in building up his business. And to be honest with you, I'm really disappointed in Basingstoke District Council, Basingstoke Council, A, because of the school. That's been there for so long and it's an asset to the community. And B, that you're always saying that you support little businesses. I can't see that. I haven't seen any help from any councillors here. And I've asked for help to help us find a new place. And all I can see is Basingstoke Council only dealing with the bigger things. I think at the end of the day, if this gets sold, my husband and my business that I've worked hard for is going to go down the drain and we won't have a business. I've so much so that I've had to go back to work full time, and I'm supposed to be my husband's carer because we're finding it really hard to continue. So that's all I got to say. I'm just really worrying about our future.
Thank you very much. If I could just ask you to turn the microphone off. Thank you for joining us. If I can now invite our visiting councillors. Councillor Morrow first. You get 4 minutes, yes. Don't look so worried. Absolutely, I've changed the timer. So in your own time, I'll start the timer when you start talking.
Good evening, Leader. I speak tonight as the ward member for Tadley North, Borghurst and Kingsclear. I'm speaking on what I consider to be the shameful handling of the disposal of 24 Swan Street. I speak of the failure to consult with the tenants, the complete lack of understanding of the facilities and activities at 24 Swan Street, and the years of stress and uncertainty that you have subjected the tenants of 24 Swan Street to. 2 years ago, I was passed an email from Ian Bowes asking for support to stop the sale of 24 Swan Street. The Liberal Democrats advised the tenants to apply for asset of the community value status, which 24 Swan Street subsequently achieved. Ian is here tonight, and I hope you have had the time to read his submissions. I would like to publicly commend Ian on his incredible service to his community. He has written papers, attended meetings and filled out applications, all whilst being a parish councillor and a trustee of Kingsclear's Fieldgate Centre. After Ian, I met Hannah and Hayley on a Zoom call. Hannah is here tonight and is the principal of Kingsclear Performing Arts College. Hayley is the principal of JLD School of Dancing, two companies that do amazing work teaching the arts. On the Zoom call, I found out that they had heard about the plans to sell 24 Swan Street second-hand from Kingsclear Parish Council. During our conversation, the stress in their faces was plain to see. I met Dave in his shop, Borghurst Blades, and Ira's Equestrian Extras. He told me about Ira's fiery response to the news. They had received the news third-hand. Ian, Hannah, Hayley, Dave, Ira, these are all people's lives that have been disrupted for over 2 years now. They run successful local businesses that made it through the pandemic only to have their place of work potentially sold without the courtesy of consultation. JLD are loyal tenants of over 20 years. These people have lost significant amounts of sleep, family time, and in some cases suffered from extreme stress. Tonight, the Cabinet can choose to take the risk and uncertainty of the disposal and make a promise that 24 Swan Street will not be put back on the market. Approaching the May 2020 elections, promises of support were made by fellow ward councillors that steps would be taken to consider a community asset transfer policy. Unfortunately, these steps have not been taken, and the decision in front of us today is the minimum that could be offered. A moratorium period and 6 months to put a bid together is the standard process when disposing of an ACV. I'm asking for a strong political statement, or better still, a community asset transfer. We have waited long enough for a decision. We can wait a little longer to get it right. After leaving the tenants living in limbo for over 2 years, you are now asking for a sale in 6 months, with the threat of losing their place of business still a reality.
1 minute.
It's simply not good enough. As of yet, the CIC has not been able to apply for grants, so they've not been set a target. Yet a 6-month countdown has been proposed. 1,432 people signed the Save Swan Street petition, choosing dancers over developers. The people of Kingsclear and the surrounding areas spoke out loud and clear with their support. The proposal put forward by the Community Interest Company keeps the current community benefits and significantly builds on them. The social economic value that 24 Swan Street provides to the area will soon surpass the initial financial loss to the borough. I hope you all have visited the KPAYC website and taken the time to read through the thorough business case for the KPAYC Community Interest Company. The future plans strongly align with the recent council plan and council policies, enhancing Kingsclear as a place to live. Yeah, skip to the end. I'm asking that you support the proposal to sell 24 Swan Street to the Community Interest Company. I am also asking that you come to a better arrangement that allows some respite for the tenants who have been under a constant threat of losing their homes to the
Can you
business
wrap up, please?
for over 2 years. Let's follow our council plan and support a project that will forego a short-term financial gain for a project that can deliver decades of physical, social and cultural well-being for the waves of youngsters in Kingsclear and the surrounding area.
Thank you, Councillor Morrow. If I could ask Councillor Rattigan to join us. Ken, when you're ready, I'll start the timer.
Thank you, Leader, and thank you, Cabinet, for bringing this paper forward. I am delighted, obviously, to see the potential disposal happening at a discount, and I'm delighted to acknowledge that. Obviously, I was leader when we decided to dispose of this asset. The responsibility of Cabinet and you as leader, is to ensure that the 180,000 people of this borough get value for money. And it is sometimes difficult to make those choices. But what we have here is an acknowledgement that with community support and no politics, just the reality that lots of people have done lots of things, sometimes in the background, sometimes quietly in people's ears, but more importantly, having an understanding of what Kingsclere requires. There is no doubt that the dance school and the tenants, and rightly they're here tonight to voice their opinion on what we've done and why we've done it, are rightly worried about their situation, and nobody can take that cloud of uncertainty away from them from the past. But what we can deliver is a future that is brighter and gives them some certainties going forward. Me, myself, I've been to the Anvil and watched the dance school in its many faculties, from those that have had further education through Newbury College and many others, to see how amazing it is. And we are fortunate in a small village like Kingsclere to have such a world-renowned, because that's what they are. People go the whole world over to see some of the people who have graduated from that dance school. So we are fortunate. I think, rightly, we are giving the right amount of time. This has been known for, as people have said, for a couple of years. We do need to do more. And once we get this sale agreement and your agreement tonight to move this disposal forward, I think all councillors, Liberal, Democrat and Tory, will make the effort to ensure that the grants are there to fund it. We will ask everybody we know, we'll knock on any door possible that might have money to fund this, to make sure that this community asset is really something that we can all be proud of in the 25 years to come. We've had 25 years of renting it out. I think 25 more years of running it as a community asset would be a perfectly good target. Thank you, and I hope that you can concur with the decision that's in front of you.
Thank you, Councillor Rattigan. Councillor Isaac, I'm not sure if there's anything you wanted to just say to respond to any of those points.
Yes, thank you, Leader. It was interesting to hear from Hannah Horton, who I've met, and it's useful for this meeting to hear just how impressive the performing arts college is in Kingsclere, and therefore this recommendation allows for the potential security for that activity in the village. Ira Tompkins, I'm sorry that you've obviously had a difficult time. I'm not quite sure I understand which business yours is, and if it is in 24 Swan Street. I think that it is. I think you said 34 King Street, Swan Street, but clearly, as a council, we have a responsibility to manage our properties and our assets as well as possible, and that does give that requires us to look at every so often the possibility that we may need to sell the asset. But in this case, there's an opportunity here for the existing tenants to continue to occupy the building. So it may well be that there's some greater security that will be available to you as a result of what is being proposed tonight. I certainly hope so. I was rather surprised with what we heard from Councillor Morrow, because up to this point he's been very supportive of everything we've done, and then tonight he arrives and is very critical and very one-sided, and I think frankly rather inflammatory about things. Perhaps there's an election round the corner, but I can assure you that the the possibility of a disposal of Swan Street has been something that's been long known about by all the occupiers in the building. But again, we have listened as an administration. We've taken account of your representations, Councillor Morrow, and other ward councillors, and that's why we are putting forward these proposals, which I think are rather unique, actually, in my experience in Cabinet. So we are going the extra mile here and looking to come forward with a solution that will enable these valuable community facilities to continue into the future. That's certainly been my hope that will be the outcome in the end.
Thank you very much, Councillor Isaac. And Cabinet colleagues, I don't know if anybody's got any comments or questions. Councillor Vox.
Thanks. Thank you very much, Leader. I very much welcome this paper. I've talked to colleagues, officers and councillors about it for over the last few months, and it's clearly got an interesting history and a great future. So, and I would like to commend Kingsclere residents and Kingsclere Parish Council and Councillor Stuart Frost for championing the interests of the Kingsclere local community, developing a strategy to achieve their community aims and sustaining their campaign over an extended period. Although the dance school is a commercial organisation, it clearly adds great social value to the local community. So creating the Kingsclere Performing Arts and Youth Club Community Interest Company with the excellent community benefits set out in this paper provides us with assurance that should the Community Interest Company purchase 24 Swan Street, it will truly be a community asset. The KIC plans are laudable, particularly hosting the food bank, the community cafe and a much needed youth club. I'm sure the KIC will work in partnership with the church, the Fieldgate Centre and the many other community venues locally to ensure all of these community facilities remain viable over the long term. I think that's really important. There is one question I would like to ask the portfolio holder. If the borough sells a 999-year lease for this property, would there be any obligations regarding the upkeep of the building resting with the Borough Council, particularly as this is a Grade 2 listed building? Thank you.
Well, of course, Councillor Hawkes, the details have yet to be finalised, and I'm content to leave that with the officers to discuss with the community interest group. But if it is a long lease and that's what is envisaged, then the repairing responsibilities would normally rest with the community interest group, because effectively a 999-year lease is pretty close to being a freehold at the end of the day, and I think there are sort of other aspects of a long leasehold, but I don't think it's probably appropriate to go into all that tonight. But but they would have very much a mortgageable interest if we can get to that point.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Any other comments or questions? In that case, we have the recommendations in front of us on our page 82. We have 3 recommendations and 2 delegations. Just see if we've got agreement for those, Cabinet. Yes. Any dissenters? No. In that case, the recommendations are approved. I just would like to thank all of our visiting speakers, both members of the public and visiting councillors. Thank you very much for joining us this evening. We will move forwards then to item 5, which is the notice of motion for school uniform and free school meals. As it was a motion at full council, I wondered if I could invite Councillor Lee to address us, please. Good evening, Alex. You know how it goes. You've got your 4 minutes. As soon as you start speaking, I'll start the timer.
Thank you very much, Leader. I'm not going to take too long. Obviously, very pleased that full council unanimously backed this motion, and I hope that today you as a cabinet will commit to fulfilling the requests as listed in the cabinet papers. Besides the obvious benefit of reducing hunger among children, there are several economic benefits of providing free school meals to all school-aged children. Obviously, studies have shown that students who receive free school meals have better academic performance, which can lead to a higher earning potential in the future. This in turn will help local economies long into the future. It's also been identified that students who receive school meals are more likely to attend school regularly, which can lead to increased exam results and lower dropout rates. Like I said, I won't go on too much. I guess as Basingstoke currently has an estimated over 5,000 children in poverty, which works out as around 7 in every 30 in every classroom. Providing free school meals can help alleviate that poverty amongst families with low incomes, as they do not have to bear the additional cost of providing meals for their children. And I'd also like to just remind cabinet members of the numbers that PwC stated in their findings of providing free school meals to children in 2 separate groups. Those groups were those in receipt of universal credit, and for the cost of £6.5 billion, the core benefits that would be returned equate to nearly £9 billion, or for every or £1.38 returned for every £1 spent. However, if rolled out to every child at state school, with the cost being at £24 billion, the core benefits alone returned would equate to roughly £43 billion, or £1.71 returned for every pound spent, with wider benefits of over £58 billion. I don't think anyone would argue that this would be good value for money and good for our children. In short, providing free school meals to all school-aged children is not only a moral imperative, but it also has significant economic benefits that can improve the lives of individuals and society as a whole. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Councillor Lee. Thank you for joining us this evening. Thank you for bringing your motion to full council. I think I can say that on behalf of all councillors across the chamber. Cabinet, we have, and I think we were fully aware of it and supportive of it when it came to full council. Just looking for your agreement that we commit and move forward to the actions that were raised during the motion at full council meeting. Are we agreed? Brilliant. Thank you very much. And moving on to item 6, which is mini down governance. Councillor Isaac.
Thank you, Leader. Yes, this report proposes technical governance changes relating to 2 principal mini down corporate vehicles, the MGC LLP and the MDV LLP, as a result of staff changes and aligning the governance between those 2 companies. In addition, changes for reasons of efficiency are proposed to the authorised signing of documents on behalf of MGC LLP and MGC LLP as a member of MDV LLP, and to the requirements in relation to members' meetings.
Thank you very much. So I was expecting that to go on for a little bit longer. Any other comments or questions on the paper? No.
There are recommendations.
Yeah, that was good. I was going to do the recommendations there. I wasn't going to read out the recommendations because there's too many letters in lots of similar organisation, but sometimes in different ones. So the recommendations are on page 15. Are we all supportive of the recommendations, Cabinet? Yes, we are. Brilliant. Thank you very much. Then we go to item 7, which is Q3 Capital Monitoring Report as of the 31st of December 2022. Looks like it's you again, Councillor Isaac.
Yep. Thank you, Leader. So as you say, this is the Q3 Capital Monitoring Report as at 31st of December 2022. It is a report that's gone to Council already in February. The Capital Monitoring Report reflects the significant impact of external factors on our budgeting forecasts across a number of projected capital spends for this financial year. It reflects the effects of the pandemic on higher costs, supply and labour shortages, including contractors and consultants. The most sizable variance that has occurred has been in respect of the projected spend on the drawdown of the land at Manydown North and the accompanying infrastructure delivery. As members of the Manydown Overview Committee know, following the meeting we had recently, the negotiations with the freehold of the Manydown Company are taking longer than expected, which is disappointing. And that has impacted upon our capital budgeting. But it's very important that any agreement reached with the Manydown Company is the right one, and that one is one that supports a viable, good quality, deliverable scheme of 3,500 new homes to be built by the two councils. And so I hope that the negotiations will conclude shortly, but at the end of the day, we've got to get the right deal.
Thank you very much, Councillor Isaac. I believe, Councillor McCormick, you wanted to speak to this item. In your own time, when you're ready, I'll start the counter, Andy.
I shouldn't need 4 minutes. It's a very simple question, really, on that very subject of the slippage, the £18 million Manydown land drawdown slippage, which was, a forecast. I would say probably that doesn't come as a huge surprise. But why was it that we agreed a budget on year end, 21st December 22? Still expecting it to come in this quarter, and now we're having to amend the budget in the final quarter of the year. When was this anticipated? That's my question.
Thank you very much. Councillor Isaac, would you like to respond to that?
Yeah, well, it is the third quarter, and the budget work would have been done over 9 months ago, and at that time we needed to put into the budget the capital that would be that could be drawn down appropriately and properly and had been approved in the event that we were able to achieve the drawdown. It's taken longer and what we've done is we've recognised that at quarter 3 rather than waiting till the end of the capital programme year, and that's why this amendment has been made now, and that's why it was brought. That's why it was included in the capital programme MTFS statement that was taken to council last month.
Thank you, Councillor Isaac. We've got the recommendations you've heard, seen the report. Any comments or questions from Cabinet colleagues? No. So the recommendations are in front of us on page 24, all 10 of them. Are we happy to accept the recommendations? We are. Thank you very much. Then moving on to item 8. Guess what, Councillor Isaac?
You're working me hard tonight, aren't you? Right. Good. Thank you. Cabinet, this is the quarter 3 revenue budget monitoring report, 22-23. I'm pleased to say that this report demonstrates continuing strong budgetary management at a time of considerable inflationary pressures. The underspend is to the tune of £50,000. It has been possible to absorb in this financial year increased staff costs resulting from the local government pay award agreed across England. On the other hand, happily, because interest rates have gone up, there has been some positive aspects to that, in that the income that we've been generating through treasury management has increased by £1.46 million, which we will put to good use for our residents, I've no doubt. It's also worth highlighting that the progress that's been made with the cost of living assistance fund that features in this particular budget. Cabinet will remember that that was approved by Council in July 2022 and amounted to providing up to £1 million in grants to those households most in need because of the effects of the cost of living increases. I'm pleased to say that at this point we have had 1,433 applications and that we have been able to allocate £881,025, which, when added to the £55,000 which was distributed to the Citizen Advice Bureau, means that we are now very close to using up the entire million of 900. So we've allocated £936,625, and also, of course, we've approved at full council recently the launch of a second COLAF fund, again to help our residents, with a further £1 million from this council. I'm pleased that that there's been some stabilisation in the property rental income we collect, and that's returning to pre-pandemic levels, and also the increase in credits as a result of bigger recycling tonnages. I'm also delighted that and support the payment of £300 to a one-off payment to officers that took place, I think, just before Christmas. That was officers up to a certain grade in the organisation. So on that note, I would recommend this report to Cabinet.
Thank you, Councillor Isett. We've got the recommendations in front of us on page 50. I don't know whether Cabinet colleagues have got any comments or questions. No, I don't see any. In that case, are we happy to support the recommendations? We are. Brilliant. Thank you very much. Then we move on to item 9, Strategic Asset Management Plan, Annual Property Plan 2023-24. Guess what?
So, right, let's go. As you say, Strategic Asset Management Plan, Annual Property Plan 22-23, 23-24 rather. This report, I'm pleased to say, demonstrates that further progress has been made in the implementation of the Council's property investment strategy. In particular, I'm happy to note the success being achieved on key aspects of the management of our portfolio. In particular, overcoming a backlog that had built up on rent reviews and lease re-gears. So we are now in good shape for 23-24. Technology is important in terms of efficiency, and again, we're making better use of the TechForge database that we've invested in. Also, we're, and I think this is a reflection of the attractiveness of the borough as a place to work. We are making much more headway in recruiting good permanent staff into the property team. It's been a problem in the past, but we're getting there, and we've got very few vacancies now in terms of permanent staff. In terms of the performance of the portfolio, which is, as we all know, very important in terms of funding good services, the portfolio has held up very well despite market turbulence. We've in fact got one empty unit in the Malls, but what's encouraging is that Dykeman, I hope I pronounced that right, but the fashionistas amongst us will be able to tell me if I got that wrong, but Dykeman Shoes are fitting out a unit at the moment, and I'm told that footfall is up in the malls. Obviously, there is an imperative to get on with our town centre regeneration strategy, and that's something that the administration will be pursuing with vigour after May. I'm also pleased that we've been able to deliver a handsome capital premium of £5 million as a result of the disposal of the Mountbatten House on Basing View. And most importantly, this is going to produce excellent Grade A office accommodation, because there's going to be an over £30 million investment in the building by the new long leaseholders. So I think at that point, Leader, I would finish and recommend this update report to Cabinet.
Thank you very much, Councillor Isaac, and probably worth doing a small plug that you can buy affordable footwear for women, men and kids, as in the new refurbed store. I think it reopens tomorrow, on Wednesday. So we have the recommendation in front of us on page 66, which is clear and simple: to approve the annual property plan for 2023-2024. Unless there are any comments or questions, are we happy to approve that? We are. Agreed. Brilliant. Thank you very much. And then moving on to item 11, which is an in-principle decision to sell the Basingstoke Golf Centre. We have one public visiting speaker, and I have 4 visiting councillors. Before we do that, I'd like to ask Councillor Isaac to introduce the paper.
Yeah, and to highlight, Leader, there are some sensitive pink papers attached to this. Yes, I'm delighted to bring this paper to Cabinet tonight, because I think it represents potentially a huge win for Basingstoke, a transformative win for the borough and the town. This has emerged through our marketing of the leisure park nationally and internationally, and out of the blue, we've been approached by Great Wolf Resorts, who are, I think, the leading indoor water park resort company. They have 19 resorts in North America, and they've expressed interest in developing one of their indoor water resorts on the land that this council owns at the golf centre adjoining the leisure park. Because of the very significant potential economic and social benefits that developing a major regional leisure attraction in Basingstoke would deliver, which are fully consistent with our council plan priorities, I support the recommendation by officers to agree tonight in principle to the sale of a long leasehold of the land at the price that has been offered, which is equal to or in excess of the open market value. Obviously, there are some important conditions that need to be attached to any agreement, and those are outlined in the report, including we need to examine alternative provision or re-provision of the golf centre amenities, which I know will be well loved by those residents who use the golf driving range, the mini golf and the pitch and putt. I recognise that it has not been possible to do the advanced communication with residents and on this occasion because of the commercial sensitivities that surround this offer. But we will be engaging with residents and other councillors to listen to their views, and of course, as and when a planning application is made, residents will have a full opportunity to understand what is being proposed by Great Wolf Resorts and to express their views. Great Wolf Resorts we've met them this week, and I think I'm very impressed with them. They're originally a family company. Obviously, they've got some big financial backers, but I get the impression that listening to their senior management that they are really committed to bringing forward a great one of their resorts in Basingstoke. They can see the huge potential here, and they see in our council as a good partner to work with. And clearly, the arrival of a Great Wolf Resort would bring huge benefits to our borough. A £275 million investment, which includes a 500-room hotel, many really good quality jobs, lots of training, entry into hospitality as a career, particularly for young people, and conference facilities. There will be a standalone conference facility, and important thing is that there would be the opportunity for a lot of our residents and their families, children, parents, grandparents to enjoy the fun experience of the resort. But also there'll be access to what if I can describe them as the dry areas. So for our residents. So this is not a resort that's behind fencing. So there'll be access to arcade games, mini golf, bowling, rope courses, climbing walls. So I think our residents will be hugely attracted by what this is going to offer them and their families in the future. I think it's also potentially a double win for this borough, because it's going to make the arrival of Great Wolf on the golf centre would make our leisure park even more attractive. We've got a lot of interest in it, but I think that this will reinforce that, and so I'm excited about the possibilities that will flow from this. Clearly, this is an in-principle decision. We are at an early point. Planning permission would need to be obtained, but I'm wholeheartedly behind this, and I hope, and judging from what I hear from our comms team about the level of interest that this has provoked from our residents, and their highly supportive nature of their comments on social media, I think we've got the backing of our residents to this very exciting decision.
Thank you, Councillor Isett. Now let's go to our visitors. First, if I could call up our public speaker, Jack Miller, to the front table. Good evening, Jack. You'll have 2 minutes to address us speaking to the agenda item in front of us tonight. And I will start the timer as soon as you start speaking. And if you start using the whole 2 minutes, I'll remind you we've got 30 seconds up. So when you're ready, Jack.
In relation to the in-principle decision to sell Basingstoke Golf Centre as part of extended plans alongside Basingstoke Leisure Park, it came to my attention that at last week's Cabinet meeting, Councillor Minnis-Bound said, and I quote, "The chair of the town's football club made it very clear to you that the club's ambition was to take over Winklebury Football Complex and not a new stadium anywhere. For the avoidance of doubt, I am the chair of Basingstoke Town Football Club, and at no stage was this said, hinted at or insinuated. Whilst it is true that we've held primary and informal discussions with several parties around the borough about replacement facilities, I, at no stage, have publicly nor privately pinpointed any individual site other than Basingstoke Leisure Park as our long-term solution. I have documented evidence from the meeting you referenced in September, also present were Hampshire FA and Maria Miller MP. We discussed numerous potential venues for the football club. We as a club identified North Manydown and Basingstoke Leisure Park as possible replacement sites, whereas Councillor Minnis-Bound appeared to be the one steering us towards a long-term stay at Winklebury Football Complex. With Winklebury Football Complex upgrades that are taking place over the summer to enable us a single promotion, it is unlikely the stadium will be able to reach the minimum 3,000 capacity target needed for levels above. This would leave the club league-locked this time next year, should promotion be achieved this season. The club has since met with the chief executive of the council in a meeting that you were invited to reiterate our plans for a replacement home for the football club and made it, to use your phrase, abundantly clear that we had identified Basingstoke Leisure Park as a single target of our business plan and as a replacement home of our own. This business plan is forthcoming. Let me be clear. Let me be abundantly clear. The Camrose has not been replaced, and we stand by our single stance that we will continue to fight for a like-for-like replacement home of our own that the town, borough and community deserves. The comments made in last week's cabinet meeting in relation to the football club, and you said that I made, were untrue, and I present you this opportunity to retract them, please.
Thank you for your comments. We'll take the other public speakers first and then we'll respond. Thank you, Jack. If I could bring the councillors who are visitors. And first up, I've got Councillor Harvey. Councillor Harvey, when you're ready, I'll start the clock at 4 minutes.
Thank you, Leader. Sometimes, you know, lightning does strike twice. 7 years ago, a major investor pitched up in Basingstoke promising the earth for our leisure park. An offer that was too good to refuse, an offer that would transform the town, the exact same words from the portfolio he used 7 years ago. 7 years later, we're left picking up the pieces with a scrutiny report that uncovered major criticisms of the administration and the deal that was done, which the then new leader of the council was gracious enough to accept, and I respect him for that. I remember over a decade ago, a major investor pitched up in Basingstoke promising the earth for Basing View. I remember our now MP for North East Hampshire, who was the then deputy leader, claiming how Basing View would be thoroughly transformed, and he had a big shiny new master plan and framework document to prove it. 10 years later, we've parted company from that strategic partner who didn't deliver on their promises for our premier business park, a lost decade where the likes of Green Park in Reading have overtaken us. It's over 7 years since Urban and Civic pitched up for the Manydown Project joint venture, and still not one house has been built on the land. And yet this administration created one of the most convoluted deals I think anyone has ever seen or imagined. No one would repeat that again, for sure. Basingstoke is on its 10th town centre strategy since the current administration came to power. Not one regeneration scheme has been delivered by this administration in 17 years. The Anvil has been crying out for capital investment that it's been starved of for over a decade. And I could go on because the list is pretty long. So it all begs the question, can the administration be really trusted with another major project like this? This is yet again the only show in town, another single investor. In respect of the due diligence, we really need to look into this and make sure that we understand the details. It's a very long lease that we're giving here. We need to thoroughly scrutinise the scope of the deal. Will the resorts facilities be open to the local people, and if so, at what cost to them? How many local people will be able to access the resort at any one time? It's no good if the new resort is closed to the people of Basingstoke and they can't afford to enjoy it. Will the design of the buildings be of good quality? My advice is not to look at the American-based images of their resorts. What does this mean for our wider leisure park? Has that been thought through and factored in? We need to see a lot more information to really understand the proposal and what is actually on offer. Inward investment is good if it delivers for the people of the borough, but it has to be more than merely a commercial deal. We've been here before, and the question is, have we learned the lessons from our past mistakes?
Thank you very much, Councillor Harvey. Now we're going to Councillor Jones. Good evening, Tony. When you're ready, make yourself comfortable, and I'll start the time when you start speaking.
Right, well, where I'll start off with, first of all, the scheme itself is great, but in the wrong place. Basically, it's in between three housing estates, a railway in between one. The noise level will be too great. And the pitching putt itself, well used, well priced for normal families. When I don't know how much we can't really go into these papers, I take it. no. But some of the information in there is definitely wrong when we talk about other golfing facilities in this town. For example, if you wanted to play golf in week on any course, you're talking £30, and up to 40 and 50 elsewhere. Whereas if anybody wants to play in Basingstoke Pitch and Park, different setup, £7.80, and it's reduced for pensioners and children. So, and it's well used. And for the driving range, the same. I think you've got your figures wrong there. We'll go into that obviously at a later date because that's in the pink papers. There isn't 6 driving ranges in this town. As I say, the Hampshire County Council's downgraded the roads, I understand, which pass the leisure centre. We're still waiting for many down, you know, that thing in the sky we've had for 27 years, waiting to be built on. It always amazes me that things that have been outstanding in this council, as in many down, seems to be on the back burner all the time. But something like this, when it comes to money, selling our souls for the sake of a few bob, not what the people want, not proper consultation, we let go, and I do get really annoyed. So the actual scheme itself, if you found the right place for it, I'd support it. We could do with it in Basingstoke, but not at the cost of the residents who live there in my ward, Winkleberry, Buckskin. So I'll leave it at that because it's going to come back and I should be speaking on it again, but I oppose this.
Thank you very much, Councillor Jones. If I could invite Councillor McCormick up to speak. In your own time, Andy, and I'll start the timer when you start speaking.
Thank you, Leader. So, we're looking at the sell-off in principle of Basingstoke Golf Centre, something that was only put in the public domain 8 days ago. Press release, printed edition of the Gazette Thursday. Now we have a cabinet meeting to approve this decision in principle. Why the rush? Why is it once again we're looking at a single bidder? Great Wolf Resort Water Park next to the Aquadrome. You know, why are we competing, when entertaining the thought of competing facilities next to each other and then trying to say that the sum is greater than the constituent parts? You'll be fighting over the same customers. What is the open market value for the land? And when I look at the usage figures on page 186, it's a very popular golf centre. And then I look at section 3.13 on page 187, it has been identified some privately owned golf clubs in the area are proposing to provide indoor driving range that use modern technology to track the ball flight. Which clubs? How far away? How much are they going to cost? Councillor Jones mentioned that you might be paying £30. It's approximately 4 times what you would pay during the week to Basingstoke Golf Centre. And if it's going to be sited far away from the town, how many people are going to find it a barrier to their usage because of transport? And also, I'd like to refer back to a cabinet decision on the 11th of January 2022, where you had an agreement with Serco that included the golf centre, the Aquadrome and Tadley Pool. So the golf centre you now want to demolish and replace with a facility that's going to go head to head with the Aquadrome, which you're wanting to rebuild anyway. So I don't know what that means for the Aquadrome. Perhaps you could tell me. You're going to be spending a lot of money and then taking money from someone else for a competing facility. That doesn't sit well. And what's going to happen to Tadley Pool? Thank you.
Thank you very much, Councillor McCormick. Councillor Isaac, I wonder if you could address initially the comments from visiting councillors about the item that we've actually got in front of us as far as the sale of the golf centre. Oh, sorry, Alex, I've missed you.
Oh, no, that's all right. Although it might be
prudent to answer certainly the public question first, because I fear that my speech may stray into pink papers.
Okay.
Sorry to spoil everyone.
Yeah, okay, no, thanks for the warning. That's very helpful. So may I suggest then that we hear from Councillor Isaacs Ross' response from the questions that we've got that's on white papers. Then I'll deal with the comments by Jack Miller, and then we'll take your questions. And if you're telling us that we'll definitely go into pink, then we'll do what we need to do to go into private session, if that's all right, Alex. So, Councillor Isaacs.
Thank you, Leader. Well, what I've heard tonight reinforces my view that we should proceed with this. All you've had is the usual depressing negativity coming from opposition councillors. Do they want Great Wolf Resorts to come to Basingstoke? Would they prefer that they went to Reading or Southampton? Is Councillor Harvey for it, or is he against it? It's never quite clear. He's very strong on picking holes in things, but one never quite knows what his final position is on something. And he sort of puts forward statements as though they're factual, like the failure on Basing View. That isn't correct. There's been huge progress being made on Basing View. Go and look at it. You'll see how it's transformed over the years. And actually, in terms of Minidown, one of the problems we've got is we inherited the legal agreement that his administration lumbered us with back in the 1990s. So I'm quite content that we have a very well-financed, well-intentioned investor in Great Wolf Resorts, and I think I speak for the residents of this borough in saying that we welcome their interest. There's a long way to go on it, but I think a lot of our local people will be very excited about what it has to offer. And of course, there's work that can be done in relation to the lease. That'll all have to be gone through. The scope of the deal, how local people will access it. Yes, we'll look out for that. But we've had good reassurance from Great Wolf in that respect. And I'm absolutely convinced from listening to them, they're going to want to build very good quality, environmentally friendly buildings. So can we do away with all this sort of this depressing negativity? Councillor Jones, it's a good idea, but we need to put it somewhere else. Well, wouldn't that be easy in life if that was possible? We will look very closely at what needs to be done to ensure that the golf facilities are available to our residents. We're certainly not selling our souls here. That's just so frustrating to hear that. What we're looking at is the potential of £275 million worth of investment in the borough, 600 good quality jobs, 600,000 visitors to the borough who wouldn't otherwise have come here. What are you talking about? And then Councillor McCormack. Why the rush? Well, sometimes you have to get on with things, and this administration is one that is prepared to move in the interests of our residents and talk to people who are expressing interest, particularly when it's such enormously valuable potential interest in our borough. So I rest my case, actually. I'm even more determined, Cabinet, that we should go ahead with this, and with all the safeguards that will be built into it, I'm convinced that it's something that our residents want us to do, and they will approve our actions tonight.
Thank you very much, Councillor Isaac. I'm just going to comment briefly on the Great Wolf and the Golf Centre, just to put on record, really, the experience. And I sort of share concerns sometimes when we get people who are offering big checkbooks to our borough as far as saying, well, actually, what is it they promise and what is it they want to deliver? And that was very much in my mind when we met Great Wolf only yesterday. And I think there's something to be said, which, you know, there is a question to be asked, which is what is different about this versus New River? This is an owner-operator who will build and run the facility so that we can look them in the eyes and turn around and say, tell us it's the real deal. That's how I would describe the conversation yesterday. That what we have is somebody who wants to invest and come to Basingstoke, which in a very compelling way has families and communities at the heart of what their business is about. And a fistful of letters from mayors in North America who are prepared to turn around and say everything that this outfit promised, they delivered and more. They delivered for families in their communities, they delivered for communities, whether it's the socio-economic value, whether it was opening up their resort, so that actually their pack, as they would call it, was at the heart of the broader community. So I can't wait for others to meet them, actually, because I think when our residents and when councillors meet them, they'll understand what we mean when we say that, because they really are focused, as we are, on being part of the community and bringing all those benefits and participating in a very joint, partnering, strong relationship basis with both us as a local authority, but also neighbouring communities as well. So I look forward to the conversations that we and they have with our communities. So I would also just move on to Jack's comments from the football club, because for me, there's something about, perhaps we don't recognise the same meeting we went to, Jack, because how I would characterise the meeting I was invited to on the 2nd of September can best be described as somebody giving me a pitch. And I don't mean that the pun in an intentional way as far as football is concerned, that says, you know, would the council be interested in a pitch where actually the Basingstoke Town Football Club took over the running of Winklebury Football Complex, and would it have our support? Rather than the narrative that seems to be suggested, which is Councillor Minas-Bound somehow has this as a priority, along with some other myths by the football club as far as perhaps negotiating the 250,000 mitigation of the cameras, which was done by the football club and the current chair then, as far as Steve Williams. So I think we just need to be really clear about some of those myths and the narratives which fundamentally aren't true. And I do have to say I was shocked and surprised by the announcement of the football club on, I think it was the 17th of February, where it didn't actually in any way follow what I thought that the meeting was and what I heard you say, Jack. So there is something for me about, and we've said it before, about being able to commit to the football club and actually get behind an ambition and a plan. And I was away for the meeting that you invited me to, as you said, and the chief exec went, that actually there is something about expecting a business plan and a case for running, and you know what, whatever it is. And I think there's something about that, isn't it, that we've seen with Swan Street in Kingsclear, that actually when we're talking about assets and resources of the council, there is something about having something that we're able to invest in. And I know that's a phrase that we've discussed with Hans F.A. before, that there's something about being able to support the football club, which frankly we are very keen to do, but let's make sure that we answer the question that is often asked, which is what's the difference between Basingstoke Town Football Club and places like Bury? Well, let's have a really clear, well-articulated, consistent ambition with a plan that we can all get behind, both in our heads and in our hearts. And I look forward to having that conversation so that we can all get behind it, because I, to be fair, I am quite cynical about the messages that come out of the football club, because in my dealings with the football club since 2016, they have been quite inconsistent. They have been very different, and actually they seem to generate all sorts of narrative and all sorts of sort of opposition or support. So let's be open and transparent, and let's work out what the plan is, and let's make sure that we can get those plans out in the public and talk about how we all work together to achieve them. So that's what I would put on record, because I fundamentally would articulate the attributes of that meeting in September as a pitch for a level of support. So now I think for Councillor Lee, so that we can deal with his representation speaking to us on the agenda item, so that we can discuss confidential papers at what is currently a previously public meeting, we need to agree with the members that we pass the following motion. So I would put forward that the motion that pursuant to section 100 open brackets A close brackets open brackets 4 close brackets of the Local Government Act 1972, the public be excluded from the remainder of the meeting on the grounds that the public interest in maintaining the exemption outweighs the public interest in disclosing it, and therefore that exempt information is likely to be disclosed as defined in the appropriate paragraph of the Schedule 12A of the Act. So this is absolutely so that we can discuss the papers that are in pink, which means they're confidential and commercially sensitive, and that we will turn off the recording and carry on the rest of the meeting. So do I have the Cabinet support for that motion?